I never told anyone. Not my parents, not my friends, and definitely not my sister. When my uncle passed away, he left behind a fortune most people could only dream of. $17 million, to be exact. The estate lawyer contacted me directly. My name listed clearly in the will. I remember staring at the document, heart pounding, thinking, this is mine. I didn't want anyone to know. I had seen what greed could do to people, especially in my family. My sister was notorious for it. Always asking, always taking, never satisfied. If she knew, she would do everything to get her hands on a single penny. I decided to keep it quiet. I transferred the inheritance into a trust account, set up under a name only I could access, and meticulously planned my financial future. Hey, if you enjoy my content, please subscribe and hit the bell. Your support means everything and helps me keep creating. Thank you so much. Life went on as usual, or so I thought. I lived quietly, invested wisely, and enjoyed the peace of knowing my future was secure. My sister called one afternoon, chatting casually, asking about life, money, and career. I dodged every hint she threw at me about inheritance or family wealth, careful never to slip. Weeks later, I noticed subtle changes. She started dropping by unannounced, just to see me. She became unusually helpful, offering to run errands and cook meals, but something felt off. My intuition told me she knew something, but I had no proof. Then it happened. My lawyer called urgently. They're trying to contact you directly about the inheritance, he said. It seems someone may have discovered your trust account. Panic surged through me. I hadn't expected this. I had been so careful, so meticulous. How did they find out? I sat down and thought through everything. My sister. She had always been clever. Perhaps she had snooped, perhaps a conversation overheard, perhaps an accountant mistake. Whatever it was, she knew something. I had to act quickly. I couldn't let her manipulate the situation or pressure me into sharing. She had no right, and legally the inheritance was entirely mine, but emotionally I wasn't prepared for the lengths she would go to. Over the next days, I became cautious, guarded, strategic. I altered some routines, added extra layers to my account security, and documented everything. I also observed her behavior closely. Every phone call, every question, every casual comment was analyzed. And then I realized the biggest shock. It wasn't just my sister. My parents were subtly probing too, pretending not to know, smiling kindly, casually asking about family finances as if testing waters. I had kept my secret to protect my future, but I hadn't realized they were all circling, calculating, ready to claim what they felt entitled to. The stakes were higher than I ever imagined, and for the first time, I understood keeping a secret was only the beginning. Now, I had to outsmart them. I smiled faintly, the weight of $17 million heavy in my hands, not just money but power and the responsibility to protect it. Over the next few days, I started noticing small, subtle signs. My sister would accidentally linger near my desk when I handled financial documents. She would ask pointed questions about my plans, investments, or even casually mention, it must be nice to have some extra money, right? My parents weren't much better. They began asking me about family trusts and investments casually, as if testing the waters. I realized then that my secret was fragile. One slip, one careless word, and the truth would be out. I had to protect myself and my inheritance. I called my lawyer to set up additional safeguards. The trust account had layers of protection. Joint verification wasn't allowed, any changes triggered alerts, and communications were encrypted. I also moved portions into diversified investments, making the money less obvious and harder to access without my authorization. Still, I needed to watch my family closely. I started documenting everything: who asked, what, how often they probed, and any unusual behavior. It became a careful game of observation. My sister was smart, too smart to fall for overt tricks, but predictable in her greed. My parents, on the other hand, masked their curiosity with warmth, pretending they only cared about me, while subtly nudging me toward discussions about helping family financially. One evening, my sister invited me over for dinner. She was unusually cheerful, complimenting me excessively, laughing at every joke, and dropping hints about planning for the future and family support. I played along, pretending ignorance, laughing, and keeping the conversation vague. Inside, I was analyzing every detail: the tone of her voice, her choice of words, even the way she fidgeted when I avoided giving specifics. By the end of the evening, I was convinced she suspected something, but she had no proof, and I wasn't going to give her any. A few days later, my father accidentally mentioned a distant relative's estate planning, and I noticed him subtly watching my reaction. He had no idea I was fully aware of my inheritance, how it was secured, or that I was ready for any attempt to manipulate me. I realized then that this was bigger than just protecting money. It was about protecting myself, my independence, my decisions, my freedom from their sense of entitlement. I couldn't allow my sister or parents to assume they had any claim on what was legally mine. I started acting even more cautiously, changing passwords, limiting in-person discussions about money, and controlling all documentation. Any hint they might have received from casual snooping was contained. I even set up alerts to notify me if anyone tried to access the trust account or investment portfolio. Despite all this, I couldn't ignore the emotional aspect. My sister and parents weren't malicious in an obvious way. They masked their greed under concern and love. But I knew better. Their smiles, their casual inquiries, even their laughter carried weight. It was all part of testing the boundaries, seeing how far I could be pushed. I decided to take one more precaution. I drafted a clear legal notice, establishing that the inheritance was solely mine and any attempt to interfere or claim it would be challenged. I didn't intend to send it yet, but knowing it existed gave me confidence. By the end of the week, I had a clear strategy: protect the inheritance, observe every move, and maintain the act of naive oblivion. My sister and parents thought they were circling their prey. Little did they know, they were the ones being watched. For the first time, I felt entirely in control. $17 million wasn't just money anymore. It was leverage, security, and proof that clever planning and vigilance could outsmart even the closest family. And I wasn't about to let them take a single penny. A week later, my sister finally asked directly, "Did Uncle leave you something?" I smiled. "A few memories. That's all." She watched my face, searching for cracks. There were none. That night, I signed the final papers, placing most of the inheritance into long-term trusts and investments only I could access. By the time they realized the truth, it was too late. They had been circling for weeks. I had been securing everything for years, and not a single dollar was ever within their reach.